Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Andor. Let them see how an insurgency adapts. Welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our watch club for Disney and Lucasfilm's Andor episodes 4 to 6. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and Star Wars in general. So if you haven't watched these episodes yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in less than 12 parsecs. Now, before we join a seemingly impossible heist, let me introduce you to my trusted partner joining me today. He's the droid-dropping, helmet-popping, empire-stopping rebel spy who's always down for a dry run after a few Dagobah slug slingers. He's Darcy Dank Ferrick Hudson.
Again, you always leave me speechless with these intros. I never know where to go from what you build up off of. I love it.
Well, have you had a Dagobah slug slinger? I looked up drinks at Oga's Cantina. Have you had one of those yet?
I think I've drank half the menu there now, so I wouldn't be surprised if I had.
At least one or two might have slipped in there. Darcy, before we dive into this Watch Club episode, I wanted to take a moment to ask you a question. One of the things I think we love about this series is that we're seeing a slightly more diverse galaxy than what we're used to with Star Wars. You know, it's not all sand planets, which is so refreshing for this series and for Star Wars in general. I want to know, if you had the chance to run away with hundreds of millions of credits, which planet would you run away to?
Maybe it's because of where we grew up. Going up north to the cottage in the summer like that was a very big part of my childhood, and I've always loved the outdoors and lakes in particular for that reason. So I'd probably have to go ahead and say Naboo, because I feel like it would, hit both those boxes of nice, lush green landscapes and then beautiful lakes. So I think that's probably where I go and hide out if I had to.
Oh, dude, 100%. Would you jump around on those? What are they called? Shock, SHAAK. I just looked it up here. The thing that Anakin's like running on top of and then falls off of is him and Padme are in the fields.
Yes.
Would you be jumping on one of those, running around?
No, I'd probably just, drive by it on the way to the lake or something like that. I wouldn't spend my time playing with those things.
But you could roll around in the fields, and then maybe, someone might think you're hurt and then run to your aid, and then, I don't know. It could be very romantic.
Again, I feel like a lake is a better romantic setting than a pasture.
True. I don't know. I have no idea what Anakin was thinking. For me, dude, get me out of the farmlands, get me all the way to Coruscant. I want to get myself a really incredible studio apartment and just go shopping and go to Luthen's shop. Like he seems like he's just got like he has the equivalent of all the things that we would care about if we lived in the Star Wars universe as big geeks, like all the collectibles, and like, dude, just fancy dinners every night. Like the nightlife on Coruscant has got to be pretty poppin'.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is, but I also feel like you'd be going through your heist savings at that point very quickly. It seems like you'd be like living downtown in Toronto or something like that.
It's true. I would just eat all the way through it, and then I would just be back on the farmland planet. You'd find me. I'd have all this stuff, and I'd just show up at your door on Naboo and just be like, dude, I'll sleep with the Shocks. I don't care. I'll go sleep with them. Just give me a place to stay and somewhere to put all my whatever the Star Wars equivalent of Funko Pops are. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, listen, we have a ton to get through with these 4 episodes, and I think we really want to get to episode 6, but I've got some interesting stuff for episodes 4 and 5 as well. First off, I do want to thank Lindsay over at nerdsandbeyond.com for her excellent recaps that helped me put all these sort of descriptions together. I slightly changed them and rearranged them for what we're doing here, but definitely check out nerdsandbeyond.com if you ever need a good recap. All right, let's start off with episode 4, which is titled Aldhani, directed by Susanna White. It starts off right where we left Cassian and Luthen back on his ship escaping the Pre-Mor security officers as they make their way to Aldhani. Luthen tells Cassian to hold on as they make the jump to Lightspeed. Cassian comments that he's never seen a Fondor Hullcraft do that before, and Luthen says, well, it's been a day of surprises for all of us. After Cassian sips on some Med Nog to help, the pain in his arm go away, Luthen says you have two choices. Either he drops you, he drops him somewhere and he starts running, or he can join him and help with something important. He asks if he really wants to put a stick in the eye of the Empire and get paid for it. So let's dig into this sequence here, starting with the mention of like all the different sects of the various rebels. And it's something that I don't think we think about too often when we think of like, oh, the collective rebel alliance is just the rebel alliance. But here we're seeing them all split up. The alliance, the guerrilla, the partisan front. It just shows how split the rebellion is at this point. Do you think that that's for strategic purposes? Like, is that purposeful? Or do you think it's out of necessity because they don't have enough funds to like unite their forces?
I feel like it's kind of a bit of column A, column B there. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of these rebel things we talked about, or at least I've brought up in the past, I feel like they were all rising up at the same time for different reasons across the galaxy. And it was more later on in their, formation of their resistance that they come together with these other rebel factions. So yeah, I feel like they are split up because they started split up, and now they're slowly coming together and don't know how to work together so much. I feel like that's kind of where we're sitting in the rebel alliance right now.
Yeah, I think the idea of them not knowing how to work together, mm-hmm. but also I think there's got to be a lot of discourse between them. I mean, even with the group that we do get to see, through these episodes, there's already so much sort of discourse. They don't necessarily fully trust each other, and I think that some of these different groups have different ways at which they believe they should fight back. Like clearly, the partisan front, which is Saw Gerrera's group, they're the extremists in the war, and the alliance is, you can see with Luthen and his group, they're much quieter. They take their time. They're a little bit more, maybe they're a little more precise as opposed to just gun ho. And we also learn later in the episode when we see Karis asleep, and Arvel tells him that Saw Gerrera would put his head on a pike for a laugh if they caught him sleeping at this point. So it's one of those things where, like, I think that they just maybe don't all work the same way, mm-hmm. And they haven't gotten to that point yet because we don't have a collective leader in someone like Amon Mothma where, she is sort of the face for all the decisions.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a lot like you said, because I feel like, I think it's because, like I said, they started out separately, that they, again, have these different belief systems. It kind of only makes sense that they would fight back in different things, given the different situations that they were, being oppressed in and then rising up against. So it makes a lot of sense for all these different points of view. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the show will explore the growth of their relationship between these rebel sects.
Totally. And we got a mention of Mimban. Do you remember Mimban from the only other spin-off movie that isn't as good as Rogue One? You remember that movie?
I do. I enjoyed that movie. Thank you very much. I just don't remember the character that you're mentioning, or
no, the planet of Mimban. We got Solo. That's where Han Solo met Chewbacca. But it's nuts to think that Cassian could have been making food that Han Solo ate while he was in that war, like because he was a chef, right? Like I think Luthen calls him out on that.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought of that. Again, I'm not the best at remembering these planets that we see for few seconds or anything like that. It usually takes me a while to go, retain that information. But mm-hmm. Always cool to see these connections being formed.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's kind of neat too, the idea of like getting a deeper understanding of how they go about actually stumping the Empire. Mm-hmm. Cassian noting that he's never seen a Fondor Hullcraft make the jump to light speed, and so that's got to be how Luthen is avoiding the Imperial forces, and kind of like they wouldn't ever expect mm-hmm. a craft like that to be able to do those sort of things. So he's probably made a ton of escapes where maybe the Imperial forces have sort of rested on their laurels of just like, oh no, there's no way he's going to escape.
Yeah, we'll just track him. We'll track him as long as he's in the system type thing. But as soon as he jumps out of the system, they're like, oh crap, what was that type thing? I love it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for this guy to how he's getting around to all these places. If he's able to lead this double life, it makes sense that his ship would just be made to fly under the radar, quite literally.
It's his ship is living a double life just like he is. I love that. I love that. And then lastly, that line that Luthen says to Cassian, "You'll ultimately die fighting these bastards," which, I mean, it's such a great retroactive foreshadowing, right? Because that's exactly what happens. And I love that this is the very moment that he really signed up for what happens to him in Rogue One. Like, this was the exact moment that that sort of changed his course of his life. And in episode 3, when he's telling Luthen how he sneaks in, past the Empire, pretending to be one of them again, I just think it's so cool how this show is retroactively laying the foundational moments that define his character. It's so good.
It's incredible. It's the way that we're getting these peaks at the character we know to come just has me so hopeful to see that growth, because already they're laying the foundation for an already believable transformation. So I can't wait to see how his story plays out over these 2 seasons.
It's awesome. Okay, so let's get to this next section here. On Coruscant, we're introduced to Dedra Muro. She enters the ISB, or the Imperial Security Bureau, and we see a meeting between her and all the other ISB supervisors. We see Dedra watching closely as her colleagues attempt and fail to impress ISB officer Partagaz. During an Imperial Security Bureau meeting, they discuss the corporate security incident on Ferrix. Cassian's stolen Imperial Starpath unit was discovered there. After the meeting, Supervisor Dedra Muro begins to look further into the Starpath unit that was retrieved from the site. This should now give her jurisdiction over the incident. When another member of the Bureau refuses to turn over the files from the incident, she goes to speak with him personally, but he won't budge. Ferrix is his sector. The two of them bring the issue to their superior, and Dedra pleads for him to understand that she strongly believes what occurred may be related to the rebellion. He dismisses her suspicions. So let's just get into it here. What did we think of our introduction to Dedra Muro and her pursuit as an ISB agent?
I loved it. I mean, I recognize the guy who's refusing the files from. I'm a fan of Taskmaster, so I know him as a comedian and a rapper in the UK.
Really?
And so seeing him in this role was, at first I'm like, oh, I know that guy, and then seeing the character he plays and just how even in the ISB there is still such infighting because they're trying to one up on each other and keep stuff close to the chest just so they can get ahead. I love that we're getting to see this side of the Empire in live action, because it has been explored in the Thrawn novels a bit, but to see it it's so widespread that no matter where you are in the ranking, you're still going to be fighting someone trying to get ahead. I love it. It's so cool. And the character, absolutely. I can't wait to see how her story grows, because clearly they're showing or spending so much time with her for a reason.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. Like, we had a chance to speak to Denise Gulp, and she talked about the idea that, like, I've seen her in other interviews, and she's talked about the idea of, like, the fact that she takes on roles of women who are so much more capable than where they're stationed. Mm-hmm. And how, it's interesting because you do see Dedra very much so put into this position of, like, Partagaz notices that she is better and should be taking over this sector, but he just says, you know what, stay quiet, stay in the background, it's better for you if you do. And obviously she doesn't. I think she's great. I think she's a badass. Mm-hmm. I don't think we've gotten to see her do too much, even by episode 6, but you can see her and Cyril are traversing very similar paths. But again, she's also it's the fact that she's seemingly like one of 2 women in her position. Like, there's only one other woman that was at that table, and just the way that she straight up isn't taking any shit from Blevin. Blevin, by the way, is played by Ben Bailey Smith. Ben Bailey Smith is that actor that you were referring to.
Yes, yeah.
Earlier,
like Doc Brown is his like rap name or a comedic stage name type thing.
Yes,
he's a funny guy.
And then Partagaz, who's played by Anton Lesser, from Game of Thrones, plays that Meister guy.
the creepy black Meister guy. I don't know. Yeah. He's just a creep.
He's a creep. But yeah, he's fantastic in this. But yeah, I'm stoked to see more of Dedra. So let's keep going here. The Imperial Security Bureau reprimands and punishes Cyril Karn and his colleagues, including Sergeant Mosk and Chief Inspector Hine, after a strict word from Lieutenant Supervisor Blevin. We learn that moving forward, the Morlana system is now under strict Imperial authority. So obviously ashamed of his actions, Cyril packs his bags and returns home all mopey-like, and his mother answers the door and slaps him in the face and then hugs him real tight as she invites him in. So Cyril must be feeling pretty down on himself. What did you think of this this take? What do you think? Sorry, what do you think this takeover means for Ferrix? And what did you think of Cyril's mama giving him the old Willie Smith?
The first thing I could think of with the Ferrix takeover just leads me to think that we're going to probably see another rebel faction born from that planet, because we see that when the empire kind of tightens its hold, that's when these resistances and rebellions kind of come to fruition, at least on the planet itself. So that's what the Ferrix thing has me thinking. And then as for I don't know what his name is again. I keep forgetting it every time I see him.
Cyril?
Cyril, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with Cyril's mom, I'm in his whole situation. I'm confused. I'm wondering where it's going to go. I feel bad for the guy. He clearly did not have a very good childhood, or his mom was very overbearing, or I don't know what it was. He just does not want to be there. So yeah, I'm curious to see as to why we're spending so much time with him. Like, he clearly has more of a story to tell. So when will that come?
Right. And I'm wondering if, like, he clearly is upset to be going home. I don't think he necessarily enjoys being around his mother, and so clearly him being having a day job and having a job where he can stay away from home has been something that he's really needed in his life. And you can tell he's such a perfectionist here by the way she talks to him. And I just wonder if this is going to drive him further into the Empire's beliefs. Or do you think it's possible this could set him up to flip sides, in the sense of, like, they've already betrayed him now? Or is he going to double down and like know that there's more to the Empire than what he's seen on Ferrix? Or do you think he's going to potentially maybe make the jump over because he's, I'm done with it. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
It's hard for me to say, because I want to say yes, he's going to make that jump, but I also feel like he can't forgive the rebels, or at least Cassian, for causing all those deaths on with his escape and stuff like that, because the blood was on his hands.
Yeah,
he was so gung ho about tracking down these rebels on his planet or whatever, the criminals. And I don't know, I feel like the guilt. I don't know if he hates Cassian. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing where will he hate the Empire more depending on how they just left him to dry, or like left him high and dry, or will he double down on his hate for the rebels for putting him in this position? So I can see it going both ways. I really don't know what's up with that.
It's going to be interesting. He reminds me a lot of that. Who was that Rebels character that played? He was like the
Caloran? No. Calix? No. Callus. Agent Callus.
You're getting close. Agent Callus. Yeah. Yeah. He does remind me a little bit of Agent Callus in that way, right? Where you can totally see that flip happening. Spoilers for Rebels, but again, we said spoilers for all of Star Wars, so get with it. All right, let's keep going here. Having agreed to the mission, Luthen drops off Cassian on Aldhani to meet with the team's leader, Vel. Though Vel is initially hostile about the idea of taking on Clem, Luthen manages to convince her that Cassian is a valuable asset. Cassian and Vel make their way back to camp as she warns him that the others cannot know about Luthen. He's baffled to learn that they're actually robbing the Imperial armory at the Aldhani garrison. Suddenly, the mission has just become much more dangerous, especially considering there are only 7 of them now, counting Cassian. When they get to the camp, most of the crew is hesitant about the introduction of an outsider so late in the game. Val makes up an excuse as to why she's brought Clem in, and now leaves no room for argument. Later, when the team walks Cassian through the plans for the heist, a small-scale model that they've built to illustrate the armory, he's initially put off by how improbable it all seems. However, they've carefully planned this entire mission around a celestial event, which only occurs once every 3 years, that will provide the much-needed distraction that they'll use to escape in just 3 days. So, what did we think of Vel and her small insurgency group? And there's some speculation going around online, and again, the whole aspect of everyone has to be related to everyone in Star Wars, but there is some speculation going on that Vel could be Luthen's daughter. What do you think?
I never even went there with that relationship. I think it's really interesting to see what some other rebels who are already, gung-ho for the cause look like at this stage. And again, the ideas for the heist here and the group they've assembled, with each of them having their own specialty, felt, again, super typical heist, but in a Star Wars setting. And I loved that aspect of it, and the fact that, again, as we're supposed to be following Andor as the main character, his reluctance to jump in there is so easily understood. Basically, looking at this unsurmountable task ahead of him with, robbing a whole garrison, relying on some star event or whatever. I loved this whole premise and the way they introduced these characters. So to me, this is a great way to kick off this, 3-episode arc of a heist scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's nice that they didn't just go straight to the heist. They took their time with it, to the point where, I was talking to Justin about this off air, but you could literally take these episodes 3 at a time and merge them all together as a mega episode, or a movie. It kind of reminds me a little bit of sort of the way that the UK, the BBC does their episodes, right? With something like Sherlock, where the episodes are movie length. You could totally, once the series is all out, you could probably binge them in that way. And I feel like it would even be a little bit better than even just waiting week to week.
Yeah, the week to week definitely, I think, affects my excitement levels, because after one episode, I'm just like, oh, that's where it's ending, but I want to know what's next and stuff like that. So the week to week definitely is killer in that regard.
Yeah, totally. I love that he calls himself Clem as a nod to his adopted father. We saw in the flashbacks of episode 3, and it's almost as a tribute. But I did find it odd that Luthen, who seems to have at least known that Cassian, how Cassian's dad died, that he wouldn't know, he didn't acknowledge it or nod to it or anything like that. I think he just accepted it. But I was expecting to kind of have some sort of look or something that made us know that, because he knew that how he died, and he's probably looked a lot of information up about Cassian in particular.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's just something that maybe he smiled as he was turning around. I don't need something to linger on that, moment. There's so much more to this story than just these little nods, as sweet as they are.
Yeah. And just on this group entirely, it's just, I think they're nothing we've really seen from the rebellion before, right? We've not really seen these characters. I mean, even with Saw Gerrera and his partisan group, they're still, having a party and playing sabacc or whatever that, the version of holochess, the non-digital version of holochess in the background, whatever that, Dejaric, right? They're playing that, but these people really barely crack a smile at any point in time. They don't seem to be happy in any way.
Well, I mean, kind of understandable. Val even said that they were there for 5 months, and they've been living in such tense conditions under constant fear of being discovered by these patrols. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were all just, unhappy people, because that is some very tense situations to be living in.
Totally. All right. Well, as his ship approaches Coruscant, Luthen slips on a disguise and gets into character for the role he's about to play as a shopkeeper. Senator Mon Mothma arrives at the shop under the ruse that she's in search of a birthday gift for her husband. With her escort distracted, Luthen takes her into the back, and Mon Mothma has been funneling money to the Rebel Alliance, but there are too many spies now, and moving it around has become much more difficult for her. She tells him that she's found someone that she thinks can help, that she wants to bring into the circle. So what did you think of Luthen's front here? And did you catch any dope Easter eggs in this sequence?
First off, I gotta say his whole reveal when he's dressing up as the shopkeeper and then
The thing with
putting
the
on
hands.
the hands, like greeting people, and then
Yeah.
how quickly he goes back to
Oh.
that cold-faced, almost killer persona. I loved that juxtaposition, and again, we see it later on with how quick he can change in the shop. In the shop, the one thing that caught my eye and I kept looking at was the Mandalorian chess piece.
Yeah.
But even more than anything in the shop, I was thinking more about what Mon Mothma was saying, how she thinks she has someone who can help them, and going along, the timeline of Ahsoka that we know. I'm wondering if we're going to be able or if we're going to be hearing the name Fulcrum dropped as a reference to her being the agent who starts linking these rebel groups together and sending them on more, organized missions. I definitely think we're going to be seeing or hearing something about her and the position of Fulcrum in the Rebel Alliance.
That's exactly what I was saying. I at first I was like, oh, Bail Organa, but like he'd already be involved by this
I think
point.
he would, yeah.
Right? And then I was like, yeah, like it would be kind of sick if they did tie in a younger live action Ahsoka. I think would be really, really dope. And it would be such a great way for them to bring in and get people ready for the Ahsoka series, especially if it's more like a tease and then we get to see it sort of into the second season, which then eventually would, when they release that Ahsoka series, which I still don't know when. And the only other person I was thinking, and this could be a bit of a stretch, but I was thinking Amilyn Holdo, like a young Amilyn Holdo, who we met in Rise of Skywalker. I know there's not a lot of fans of that character, but
there wasn't enough story for that character for me to get involved with it. So if we're getting some background here, I think that'd be some well-deserved backstory, because that character seemed cool, just we didn't get much information about her. So this would be really cool to see an origin story for her as well.
Right? And she would be at a fairly okay age for her to be brought in, and she'd also be surrounded by politicians, because that's how she grew up, just like how Mon Mothma grew up. So like if Mon Mothma was like, oh, she's my ward or something like that, I think it would be really sick, because it's interesting. You do see when maybe not in this episode, but there's an episode where we do see her within these next three where she's at the council, and she's talking to all them in those big silver circles. That's hard to say. And she's the only person standing in that circle, whereas every other circle has two people. So I'm wondering if maybe they might do something. One thing I want to point out, or a few things I want to point out: the Utapauan monk cudgel. He obviously picks it up. But there's also a Twi'lek Calicori in the background. Speaking of Ahsoka,
you mentioned that off air. I completely forgot about that.
Super sick. And then there's also some stones that apparently have the same symbols that Ezra got from the Loth Wolves. Someone also spotted a Gungan shield in the background, which is pretty dope. And like from episode 1. And then there's also an anti-breathing mask, which were used by the Cal-4 species to breathe, which I'm just saying could be Plo Koon's if he actually is dead at this point. Like that could very well, right? Like I don't know.
I need to think it's not Plo Koon's. It's just someone of his species.
Right.
That makes sense to me in my head. Yeah. That's what I'm sticking with.
I just want Plo Koon to be alive.
Yes, please.
But New Rockstars actually pointed out something that I honestly have no idea how they caught it, because it's so dark in some of these moments. But apparently there's Indiana Jones Easter eggs in there. There's carbonate plates, and one of them has Indy's whip, one of them has the golden idol, and one of them has his boots. Which is pretty dope. And so I love when Lucasfilm Story Group has fun with these things. Like I doubt, obviously they're not to bring Indy into Star Wars canon, although that would be pretty nuts if Indy ever got a chance to meet Han Solo. But there was the Club Obi-Wan in the Temple of Doom, and I know they've sort of traded Easter eggs back and forth. So pretty dope stuff. And that is it for episode 4. As we dive right into our 5th episode, titled The Axe Forgets, also directed by Susanna White, which starts off with Cyril. Again, he's all mopey, and he's moping about the loss of his job, and his mom starts to dig into him about his prospects, or lack thereof. She says she's going to contact his Uncle Harold, and then later in the episode, we see him staring ominously at a hollow projection of Cassian. So Cyril is all sad and mopey. He's reminding me a lot of a Skywalker at this point too. But what did you think of Cyril's mom here? And do you also love the fact that Cyril is eating cereal? Do you love that as much as I do? Because that was I was loving that.
Didn't even register to me when I was watching. All I could feel was just uncomfortable because, again, clearly that guy has a very strained relationship with his mother, and she is a very strong presence in any room she's in, it seems. So he was all set and on his own and was making a name for himself, and to have that all ripped away and returned to this, just, again, I feel for the guy. I feel so bad for him because... Well, also hating him still. Again, they're very good at creating these characters that you want to like and hate at the same time.
It's the best part of the show, and I think it's one of my favorite aspects of, we've already brought it up, but Game of Thrones and with the House of the Dragon. Like, again, there's a lot of characters that even there, I'm like, they're terrible. Why do I want them to stay alive?
Right?
And it keeps happening. And I love it. I love that we've gotten to that point in Star Wars storytelling where we can have, those kind of characters. And I think, we've gotten it before with certain characters like Darth Maul and even to a certain extent with Vader. But I do think that this is just, it's a more nuanced way of doing it. These characters are, very much in the gray on both sides. And you see that with Cyril. Cyril eating cereal. I love the idea. I just want Cyril's cereal to be something that we can get at Galaxy's Edge. Like, if, I think it's cool because these shows, they secretly open up the culinary options for the Disney parks while maintaining the canon. Something we never thought we would get would be cereal with blue milk, and now they can just have that as a breakfast option at freaking Galaxy's Edge. I think it would be so cool. You can also see he obviously gets a strict disposition from his mom. She talks like an ISB agent. Like, she's so quick. And shout out to Catherine Hunter, who plays Edie Carn, his mom. Also, Miss Arabella Figg in the Harry Potter.
Yes, that's where I recognized her from.
Yeah. And I think it's such a mom thing to do. I'm calling your uncle. He's going to get you a job that you don't want. So it's so funny. All right. Well, as we continue here, we get a look into the strained relationship. Speaking of strained relationships between mothers, the strained relationship between Mon Mothma and her daughter Leda, as the two bicker when she comes down for breakfast. They weren't eating cereal, but later Perrin further remarks that Gar Tafid knows more about what his wife is up to than he does. She casually states that he didn't tell him about her new foundation because she didn't think he'd be interested because it's charitable. So let's dig into this man bun here. What do you think of Perrin at this point? Do you think he's actually a good guy, or is he just totally oblivious? Like, is this another Tim with two M's situation going on here?
I don't like the guy at all. I mean, he clearly is just part of that, elitist lifestyle where
I like his style.
All he cares about the next.
I like his style. He looks
again.
good.
It fits with that character. If he's all about putting on that performance and making those connections with people and not really caring about what those people stand for, seeing that makes me feel for Mon Mothma, and clearly his daughter or their daughter is taking more after him than her in that regard, and it's very heartbreaking to see these home lives of these characters because they get so real and relatable, and you're just like, that's such a bad position. I would never want to be in anything like that. So yeah, I don't like the guy because he clearly doesn't have the same moral values as his wife, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because we see that, like, this person that should be a partner for her is the furthest thing from that, right? And I think he's becoming something more and more of what Mon Mothma hates, which is, like a combination of inaction and ignorance. And he's basically just a necessity for her to keep up appearances, I guess, like, and maybe at times take care of their daughter, but especially in episode 3 when he talks about, like, oh, you never have any fun with my friends. Like, never, we just have fun. And it's like, Mon Mothma's like, yeah, because all your friends are rich bigots who cut off trade lines for entire species and then pretend to cry about it over dinner. Like, it's absolutely brutal. And it's just one of those things where, like, Yeah, you know what? If I had the money, if I had the credits, yeah, I'd run away to Coruscant, but I'd make a change. I'd buy a bunch of Funko Pops, and then I would make a change and donate some of that money. But I hope that Man Bun doesn't become a problem, but I think he's going to become a problem. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I don't like where they're setting this character up to go because I'm going to hate him every time he steps on screen.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he has somehow redeems himself. He lets his man bun down, but we'll have to see.
Gonna have to put some work in.
Yeah. Despite what she was instructed by Major Partagas, Dedra Miro continues to remain suspicious of acts of rebellion that are cropping up around the galaxy. The occurrences are, quote, too random to be random, and she can't let it go. Meanwhile, Cassian wakes up to find the hammocks empty and his bag missing. He momentarily panics until he finds Skeen outside with all of his weapons laid out. Skeen notices the way Cassian's eyes stray to his tattoos in recognition. The two realize that they have more in common than they originally thought. Afterward, Nemec shows him a navigational tool he built and begins to wax on about his thoughts on the Imperial oppression. Vel and Taramin call Cassian over to ask for his input on their mission, and he's baffled when he has to explain the concept of a load clutch to them. He makes it clear that he's going to need to be the pilot. Taramin briefs Cassian on his role for when they go undercover. He's Imperial Private Clem, a sentry from the Alkenzi Air Base, transferred for special duty. And then the team practices marching as an Imperial unit. Though Taramin isn't happy about it, he obliges Cassian's suggestion to change up the formation as he smoothly rattles off which hand that he's noticed everyone shoots with. Their training is interrupted by the arrival of a TIE fighter, which comes swooping through the field in a show of power. So I want to go back to these tattoos on Skeen. Do you think they're war tattoos, gang tattoos? And then what did you think of Cassian's incredible attention to detail?
The tattoos to me just kind of seemed, again, could be religious or just, part of wherever he came from. It's Star Wars. People have tattoos or, face patterns or whatever. So I didn't see much of that. But the plan, the fact that they needed clearance on something so simple really shows how, scarce resources are in the rebellion, and that they're sending these people who really don't know how to do one of the most basic things in order to pull off this heist. It kind of shows that really Clem or Andor really was needed in this mission. And that just goes to show how Luthen knows his team or this team, the missions to such an extent.
True. Yeah. For him to have the foresight to understand that, like, no. Clem or Cassian is going to be incredibly important here. I think him sneaking around the Empire practically his entire adulthood, he's probably pretty used to having to pay attention to like really small details at this point. So the fact that he can just, shout off what their main hand is, that right or left, is so cool. The tattoos, I think maybe Skeen was forced into the military like Cassian, so I think it's possible that Cassian might have seen these tattoos on some of his military friends, or maybe even people he's had to kill before. So it's kind of interesting, and the tension between those two characters is fantastic throughout these 3 episodes.
Yeah, clearly, like, I get why he's so skeptical and doesn't trust this guy and everything like that, but for the same reasons that he doesn't trust Cassian, I don't trust him. So, again, brilliant writing for that to really be driven home within the show.
Absolutely. When the team heads out for the garrison, Cassian finally asks Vel why Lieutenant Gorn is helping them in the first place. She explains that he fell in love with a local woman, lost a promotion, and lost the woman in the process as well. When they stop to rest, Skeen holds a knife to Cassian's neck and grabs Luthen's necklace, brandishing it to show the others. The group is at a standstill as Skeen accuses Cassian of being a liar because he can't understand why he'd bring a Sky Kyber crystal worth 30,000 credits to a robbery. Cassian admits that he's being paid, and the money is the only reason he's there. When they arrive at the Imperial base after nightfall, they send out a signal to Gorn to let him know they've arrived. Skeen approaches Cassian and begins to tell him all about his brother, who was a spice farmer or a pepper farmer or something like that, and the Empire is the reason that he died. Vel informs Cassian that in her and Cinta's absence, Terriman is now entirely in charge. Meanwhile, Luthen nervously awaits to hear a word from the team. So pretty bold of Cassian to just lay it out for them like that, like he's just in it for the money. Do you think he was telling the truth at that point, or do you think some part of him actually wanted to help these people after getting to know them a little bit?
I think at this point it is kind of more like a 75% I'm in it for the money, the 25% I want to do it to help people.
Right.
And I think that we're going to, over the course of the series, we're going to obviously see that shift to the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest red flag I had from this whole conversation was the fact that Skeen knew offhand what that thing was, because Andor, who again seems pretty knowledgeable in this, thief trade, had no idea what it was when Luthen gives it to him, but Skeen could rattle off the price and exactly what it is.
Oh, wow.
For just seeing it in 2 seconds. It's just like, this guy's shadier than even I thought he was to begin. And like, it's just everything he does makes me trust him less and less. As much as I want to trust these rebel group, he's the worst part of it.
But you're right. The fact that like that's our first sort of big, or maybe second red flag for this character of like, just like how would he know the exactly price?
What it was? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think if the money wasn't involved, I think you're right. I think Cassian would walk at this point. I think after the events of episode 6, he still needs to go through a few more moments to really change. And maybe that's the change between this Cassian and the one we meet in Rogue One. Not necessarily, I don't think his moral compass changes on the value of human life, but it's more along the lines of him investing in the sentiment of working towards a greater cause. I think his time and his skills, he starts putting that towards it. So it's interesting because it's not what you would traditionally expect of sort of I guess a somewhat anti-hero to hero journey. He sort of stays an anti-hero all the way to the end.
Oh yeah.
It's just his I guess how he's investing his time that gets him to that place.
His reasoning behind doing these jobs changes. It goes from the money to the cause, which is, I think, again, that's the change we're going to be seeing, is him working for the cause by the end of the second season.
There we go. And that is episode 5. Let's get to the episode 6. This is the episode, Darcy. This episode, oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. This episode is titled The Eye, directed yet again by Susanna White. It rounds out the second act of this probably around a 4-act structured series, and it's the heist we've all been waiting for. The crew wakes up at their camp the next morning, and Nemec is full of anxious energy as they prepare for the heist. He struggles to get a read on Cassian and what fuels him, and he blatantly points out the fact that he doesn't think Clem is actually his real name. Terriman locks in a signal on their field comm so they'll be able to stay in contact with Vel and Cinta. As they head out, Skeen tells Cassian that Terriman used to be a stormtrooper, which explains his mannerisms. Which, again, watching that back, I was like, do you think that was a lie? Do you think Terriman actually was a stormtrooper, or do you think Skeen was just, again, messing with Cassian's head here?
No, see, this is one thing that I actually did buy when he was saying, because it makes a lot of sense. Another one thing I was questioning is this guy seems to know a lot about Imperial protocol for marching and stuff like that, just how they expect it to be done. And so the fact that they reveal that he learned how to march properly from the Empire kind of made sense and reinforced that to me. And of course, it's not out of the blue or out of the ordinary for these stormtroopers to kind of break their mental conditioning and flip sides to the other cause.
Which is even more heartbreaking, the line that he talks about with the fact that they slaughtered Cinta's entire family. It makes you wonder if again, there's so much tension between this group. Maybe he was literally one of the stormtroopers who actually killed her family, which would be absolutely nuts. And I don't know if we will get to figure that out, but we'll keep going here. Disguised in Imperial uniforms, Terriman runs the team through their cover plan again as they await the passage of the Aldhanis, who are making their trek to watch the Eye. They blend in as escorts following behind the pilgrims. Lieutenant Gorn watches carefully as they arrive and assigns them as Squad 3 to return to be the return escort with the Commandant and his family. So the Aldhanis, this was such a unique culture that we get here. Clearly, they just put up with the Empire, because just like everyone else, they have to. But what did you think of the Aldhanis and their trek up the mountains for this event?
Well, the fact that they said like the Imperial thing is it started out with like 1,500 and they whittled it down to just 60. Just it goes to show how like oppressive the Empire really is, in that they are deliberately setting up these rest stops that are designed to keep people there because they don't want them, encroaching on their territory. It's ridiculous how far the Empire will go to, to enforce their rule of a planet, to just strip it of the resources. So again, I love the Aldhani because they seem so like resolute. The 60 that we got to see making that final march, you could feel, despite not understanding what they're saying, you could feel all that pent up anger at the Empire and just putting up with it because they have to. So I loved this introduction of this, again, more diverse culture on these different planets that we're starting to see through the lens of Rebels.
Absolutely. And they don't all have to be a different culture of an alien species. They can be humans as well. I think that they, it's interesting because for the Empire to just wipe them out, they could have easily done that. It almost seems more evil, the fact that they
push them away and then slowly crush the life out of them. Like,
they're messing with their heads. They're ruining, these groups that now they've caused infighting because some of them are more devout than others. It's just so, wow, it's so evil. I also wanted to point out this is the first time we're seeing an Imperial commander's family, which was so interesting to see this series try to humanize this man who, honestly, he talks to Colonel Pettigar about how they treat the Aldhanis. They're like they're animals, and they're just waiting to be tricked or distracted along the way. It just immediately distances you from the character, whether he has a family or not. But did you notice his suit was also tailored with like black stretchy parts, which might be the only part of the character that I personally can relate to. It seems like the Empire would only have they'd only make up to like extra larges, and if you can't fit into those, you don't get to wear the suit. So like that was the one part where I was like, yeah, sometimes I expand too. So I gave him a little bit of a pass there, but J-Hold for the most part still pretty awful, dude.
Yeah, again, and just the way he treats his family as objects, it makes you hate this side of the Empire even more. And it goes to show how even in the Empire there could be people like Deirdre that you can kind of care for and want to see their growth, and then at the same time see people you can't understand how they got to where they are now and how they can be so full of themselves. And just the way that he interacts with the Aldhani, or like just he treats their culture and looks down on them from like they're less than human, and it's just ridiculous. Again, they do a really good job of setting up why you're supposed to hate these characters, and it's very easy to understand that, and it's brilliant character and writing work because you understand why you don't like them almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Vel and Cinta use this really dope like jet thing to swim underwater and sneak up onto the base to complete their part of the mission, placing devices to shut down all the Imperial comms when they're ready. Cinta can see that Vel has now grown visibly nervous, and she hesitates to send the signal to the men to tell them to move on to their next step. On the ground, they grow concerned until Vel finally radios over the comm. Terramin, Skeen, Cassian, and Nemik escort J-Hold and his family inside, where they finally drop their cover and raise their weapons. They hold the Commandant and his family alongside Colonel Pettigar hostage. And we see Pettigar raises his weapon on Nemik as the rebels are caught in a standstill. That is, until Cinta casually drops down the ladder and shoots him without a second's thought. He just instantly drops. Her and Vel join them as J-Hold tries to tell them that he can't open the payroll vault for them because it's locked with a code from the airbase. However, they only need his hand to open it. And once they get down there, they're able to blast the trays free. With their weapons held at the ready, the rebels instruct the Imperial staff to quickly help them load the credits onto the ship. Okay, so it was impressive to see this team execute this mission, but it was also kind of scary at the same time. What did you think of the plan to have the Imperial staff help them load the credits onto the ship?
I mean, very trustworthy with a team of like 4 people were there at that point.
Yeah,
trying to keep track of 10 guys running back and forth who had weapons. it was very ballsy of them, and it just goes to show how quickly people are rushed through training in the Empire, and that's why there are these greenhorns who don't know what to do in these tense situations and will let themselves be pushed around like that. I feel like there could have been a much more efficient way of moving the credits around.
Yeah.
That part kind of, I was just like, that seems so impractical. Like that, you have to, how do you load up those racks? It just seems dumb, and then there's not an automated way of moving around, or a hover cart. Like the fact that they were using a cart with wheels in Star Wars was just kind of like
strange.
That seems odd. There's so much technology that lets stuff float, and you're using wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that we've clearly can see that the Empire is, they've used droids in the past. Like, why, I get the idea of wanting to bring more jobs in for the Empire, but still, it does seem a little
That's one job
strange.
that could be automated.
Yeah.
It's odd. It seemed odd to me. I mean, again, it gave us the reason for this heist, and with taking out the oddity of the storage solution, it worked for me. And I love this whole scene and how tense it was the entire time. Didn't know whether it was going to go south or not at this point, because I mean, from the minute one, you knew this heist was going pear-shaped at some point. So
they were so sharp, they were so fast. It was interesting to see Vel hesitate to send the signal. She seemed the most headstrong of them all, but then unlike Cassian, she probably feels a greater connection to these people, and she knows that there will be casualties if her signaling them is sending them to their deaths.
Yeah, I mean, her hesitation reminded me of Cyril's hesitation when he's sending the strike force out to track down the rebel scum.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing where he hesitated because he had these lives, like they're willing to do whatever he says, and it was very much the same thing with Val. So I thought it's interesting that we got to see both an Imperial and a rebel have this same moral dilemma in their head about these people are people. I kind of want to keep them alive, but also this mission has to be done.
Totally. Yeah. And I gotta say, it was pretty nuts in a Star Wars show on Disney Plus to see a character with a loaded weapon against a kid's head.
Yes.
And again, it's Skeen. Look at that. But I know Anakin has killed younglings, but I don't think we've ever seen this kind of imagery from Star Wars before. And it shows, again, just how much more mature this series is than anything else we've gotten. The fact that they can, I know it's literally for half a second, but he literally is pressing his gun into this kid's head. I was just like, whoa. That was freaking me out a little bit.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Unreal, dude. Unreal. All right, let's keep going here. Outside the comms across the base are shut down, which isn't necessarily suspicious because it could just be a result of the interference from the Eye. However, one of the guards manages to tune his comm to the team's frequency, which is now the only one working, and he overhears what's happening inside. He and a group of soldiers go running down to the vault to intercept them. J-Hold is shocked when he realizes that Gorn was in on the robbery, despite his 7 years of service there. And I love that line that he says, after working for you for 7 years, I deserve worse. It was just so good. When the other guards arrive to investigate, Gorn attempts to act as if everything is fine, but the situation erupts into a firefight when J-Hold falls to the ground, seemingly suffering a heart attack. Though Cassian, Vel, Nemec, and Skeen make it onto the ship with the stolen credits, Gorn and Terramin are shot, and potentially, at least for Terramin, is definitely killed in the crossfire. So this scene got my heart racing probably as much as J-Hold's. I want to know, do you think Skeen actually did everything he could to cover Terramin in that fight, or do you think he let him die here, given that we know what his plan is by the end of this episode?
I never thought of it that way. I feel like, again, it was just an indication of how the rebels still don't know what they're doing fully. When it comes to these situations where you do need to make, you do need to pull the trigger, some of them don't quite go that far and don't want to make that step. So it was, again, very tense, and it was sad to see Terramin dying, yes, but more so for Gorn. I felt bad for him because, again, hearing his backstory, that's the type of thing that you can understand why he's doing it without getting much screen time. So I was a bit disappointed to see that his story ended so soon.
Well, and see, that's the thing. When we see a character get shot in Star Wars, unless they say that they died, and are very particular about it. Like
he's a traitor, so I feel like they will.
I'm just saying it could be really interesting to see if he did survive. I also think if J-Hold survives his cardiac arrest, which like at first I was like, this guy's faking it, but then the more I think about it, the more they kind of alluded to his sort of chubbiness and the amount of calf that he probably drinks. Like the guy probably actually did have an actual heart attack there, but I don't know. Probably a better thing that he did die for his wife and kid, who are probably now able to no longer have to stay on that planet anymore. And I think at one point he threatened to like hit his kid. So
yes,
guy was deserves to go. I do hope he actually did have a heart attack. Let's get to like the most phenomenal part of this episode. We see the pilgrims singing. They start to quiet down, and the meteor shower begins, covering the sky in a brilliant display of light and color. Cassian pilots the ship as they go to make their escape from the vault, but Nemec is crushed in the process when everything goes flying as they take off. Though TIE fighters attempt to pursue them, they're unsuccessful, and Nemec helps Cassian navigate his way through the wild chaos in the air. Cinta watches from down below as she didn't escape with them and is left on Aldhani. So, what did you think of the crew's escape through the Eye of Aldhani and this incredible light display?
The eye was everything I hoped it would be when they were talking up this, celestial event that they see in their atmosphere.
Yeah.
So the visuals were incredible, and then just again with Nemec getting crushed, my heart broke because he was the one person of the group that I'm like, I hope he gets out of this. He is too innocent to die on this mission, and it was sad to see the way that he went, and he still fought to the end, basically getting them out of there, and it was a heartbreaking scene, but so visually pleasing.
Dude, it was honestly, this is peak Star Wars for me on so many levels. Visually, audibly, the classic sounds of the Imperial klaxon alarm going off at the Alkenzi Air Base, and the sounds of the radars on the TIE fighters, and it was just everything about the sequence was so incredible. And
the TIE fighter explosions were just like, that is classic Star Wars, dude. Right there. Just the ball flying away.
It's so good.
So good.
And dude, I know it would be really tough for them to pull it off, but if Disney found a way to recreate the Eye of Aldhani, obviously they couldn't do it on Batuu because that doesn't canonically make any sense, but as a ticketed event every 3 years that you go to the Halcyon Star Cruiser and you see it from there, like, dude,
that'd be cool.
You see it from like above, like, oh my gosh, it would be insanely cool, and like super limited tickets, and like only once every three. I don't know, man. Disney, if you're listening, make that a thing. Nicholas Britell's music in this sequence, as it builds and builds as they fly through the eye, it's just stunning. And honestly, some of my favorite Star Wars music has now come from this series and Giacchino's Rogue One score. Like everything musically surrounding Cassian Andor has just been absolutely phenomenal. Top notch.
Yeah.
And then speaking of Rogue One, there's a really sad foreshadowing Easter egg when Nemec screams "climb," as that's the same thing that K2SO would say in his last words to Cassian in Rogue One. And it's just, again, it's awesome how this series is retroactively adding more to a movie that came out 6 years ago. The fact that, like, now when I go to watch that movie, I'm going to be thinking of Nemec in that moment alongside K2. And it's just like, I wonder if Cassian in that moment is also thinking of Nemec when he hears him shout "climb." Like, dude, so good, man. They are just, they're killing it with this writing. Absolutely. What a phenomenal sequence. Okay, so once they clear the planet, Skeen is super angry because he believes that Vel wants to give up on Nemec, who's honestly not doing very well. They make a detour and bring him to a doctor. Cassian and Skeen sit outside while the doctor works to save Nemec, and Skeen estimates that they stole about roughly 80 million credits. He suggests that the two of them take off with the money because he has a place to hole up if Cassian can pilot the ship. Cassian learns that the story about Skeen's brother was absolutely a lie. and Skeen continues to try and convince him, but Cassian opts to kill him instead. Cassian walks inside the hut, blaster raised, and he learns Nemik unfortunately died on the operating table. He tells Vel what happened, though she's hesitant to believe Skeen would betray them. Cassian firmly tells her that he's taking his cut, and he's giving her Luthen's kyber crystal in return. She hands him, and in return, she hands him Nemik's manifesto. So my question here is obvious. What did you think of the delightful four-armed doctor? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I want to know, what did you think? Skeen was. Do you think he was actually trying to betray all of them, and this was his plan all along? Hence, why he was so upset when Cassian was joining the crew.
I think so,
Yeah.
because I feel like clearly he saw like a threat in Cassian, because Cassian was coming in from the same angle as he was, almost
Right.
in it for the score and the score alone.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly that was why he was so apprehensive of Cassian. And I mean, the fact that he was so casual about mentioning it, this was something he's clearly planned out for a while, because you wouldn't, like, the way he brought it up just seemed too natural to be just a spur of the moment thinking. Like, this was his plan all along.
He had, and it's like even the idea to get Nemik to the doctor, he's like, perfect.
Like,
that's
he
my
knew somewhere where
opportunity.
he could get them off the ship and get away with it, type thing.
Yeah.
He was hoping, if I feel like if Nemik wasn't injured, he would have probably feigned an injury or something and gotten them to that doctor regardless.
It just sucks because I really wanted to believe, like, when we first met Skeen, that he was a good guy, partially because I just really like the actor that plays him, he plays Cousin Richie on The Bear, and I think he's fantastic. But also because I thought that maybe in this moment he was testing Cassian's commitment to the group. But after rewatching all these episodes, you can clearly see every move Skeen has made so far, between making up the stories about his brother and then freaking out about the kyber crystal, and then it all screams that this was Skeen scheme all along, is what I'm calling it. Skeen scheme. It's even the name sounds like a scheme. And dude, did you jump? Like, I jumped when he shot him. I was like, oh gosh, like I did not expect that.
It was very abrupt and stuff like that. But when, again, looking back on it, Andor probably saw all the same things that we are talking about in this episode, about all these red flags, and probably even more given what happened off screen.
Yeah.
So clearly he was onto this guy from minute one. And as soon as he saw he was going through with this, he's like, "No, you're out of here. I don't care about you. I got to take care of you, and then I'm on my way," type thing.
Jeez. And then we'll admit when we're wrong here at Geekcentric. We were wrong with our initial trailer reaction. Sadly, that wasn't Cal Kestis on the operating table, even though it really did look like him. I will say, even more sadly, that it was Nemik, and the fact that he gives Cassian his manifesto. I wonder if that can maybe become something that's used by the rebellion in the future, because Nemik, honestly, in a weird way, he spoke very similarly as some of the higher up agents of the ISB, in the fact that he's just so precise, but obviously
analytical,
but on the opposite side, right? Like, obviously for the rebellion, he was so quick and so thoughtful. He will be missed for sure. I'm gonna miss him as a character.
Yeah, he had very unique ways of looking at things. Just all the interactions with Andor, you could clearly see that Andor was the one who was connecting with him more than anyone else, because he was taking the time to listen to him and hear out his ideas. So I really hope that if it doesn't go so far as to being something used by the rebellion, I hope it's something that Andor constantly looks back to when he's, he's stuck in a tough situation. He just needs some, refreshing, optimistic words that are coming from a place of pure good, basically.
Yeah, it would be nice to see if he actually ever references that thing, or gives it to Mon Mothma at some point. But let's continue here. Major Partagaz tells the staff at the ISB that nobody is going home. Following what happened on Aldhani, he wants every star sector and planetary emergency retaliation plan ready for presentation by midnight. Mon Mothma is in the middle of a meeting with the Senate, though the delegates all appear to be distracted because they start learning about the news as to what happened. Elsewhere, Luthen remains undercover at his shop. A man jokingly asks him if he has any pieces from Aldhani, and it's kind of interesting in that moment. We talk about his sort of farce, his shopkeeper persona. When that guy mentions Aldhani, he loses it. He just drops it right away. He's like,
"Oh yeah,
what?" And like I was like, "No, like keep smiling. Like what are you doing?" Like it was impressive just to see that happen. But then, yeah, a man jokingly tells him, a big rebel attack happened the night before. Luthen excuses himself to step back to the back of the shop, and he laughs in relief. So this is the first time we see Luthen truly smile, I think, outside of his fake persona, which I personally found, it was a little bit, I kind of put me off a little bit because he knows that they had a successful mission, but not exactly like who survived or if any of them survived. Like he heard it was an attack, and it just kind of really paints the picture that he just cares about the fact that it made the news and that really put a stick in the eye of the Empire. And it was just one of those things where I was like, oh man, like, does he not care if they lived or died? I don't know.
I mean, I kind of already had that impression of him.
Yeah.
Seeing people as tools and resources to be used. It makes total sense that he'd have this reaction upon hearing the news, because all he cares about is like you said, jamming a stick in the side of the Empire. And I think it'll be the course of the show might make him out to be somewhat of a bad guy on more like the Saw Gerrera side, where anything to take down the Empire, and not so much the Mon Mothma side, where it's like, but you have to protect the people,
right,
and just attack the Empire. So it's very interesting to see that, again, maybe he won't be so likable by the end.
Yeah, and that's going to be the interesting thing. And I kind of, speaking of the end of the series, I do want to maybe that is it for episode 6. I want to get into predictions, our prediction segment, and we're going to be totally upfront with our audience. We're recording this a little bit later than we anticipated, unfortunately, due to scheduling. Nothing to do with Darcy was ready to go that night. I know he was, but we are technically we are already past episode 7 in terms of it being released.
I still haven't watched it yet.
Oh, but you haven't watched it. Oh,
I was a good boy.
Okay. Well, then your predictions can be whatever you want them to be. I did watch it, so for my predictions, I'm going to probably do something a little bit bigger than just what's coming next week. Like whatever I predict, I promise you, I'm not like cheating the system and like just laying out the next episode. But for this series, again, we call this segment "This Many Bothans Died" to bring us this information. So Darcy, how many Bothans died to bring you this information?
Let's say 6 Bothans died to bring me this information. Not a lot. It's not the most juicy information.
Okay, that's fair.
Very broad picture stuff. Like I said, I don't know where we're going next, what the next arc will feature or focus on, because who knows where Cassian is fleeing. Is he going? Will Luthen track him down again and anything like that? So yeah. I really don't have much to say. I mean, the speculations I did have were more about, who that other agent was in episode 4 and the fact that maybe Luthen won't be the nice guy by the end of this, at least maybe season 1. So I again, not much to say except for I think that the next arc will be a very splintered in terms of storytelling. That's what I feel like is coming, that because we have everyone kind of splitting up, maybe it won't be one story, but multiple going on at the same time.
Interesting. Okay. Do you think we'll ever get back to learning more about Cassian's homeworld? Like, do you think we'll ever get back to Kenari?
I mean, if anything, this next arc would be the perfect time to focus on it now that he's run away from his savior and he doesn't know where to go. He has no home because of what happened during the first 3 episodes.
Right.
So, again, it's if anything, this arc would be the time to do it, and it would kind of make sense if the last 3 arcs would be more Empire focused with a mission against the Empire, and it would kind of fit with this format of focusing on like a personal mission, like a rebel mission, personal thing, rebel mission. So
it's interesting because we haven't really seen a lot from the trailers beyond this episode. I think this was kind of all the big action stuff we saw from the initial trailers was up to this episode. So it is going to be really interesting. For me, only 2 Bothans died to bring me this information, because I think it's kind of a safe prediction. But I think, at the very end of the episode, in episode 6, there is sort of a pale, somewhat bald-looking figure at the council meeting, And
That place was empty. I gotta say, there was like 10% of the people were
there was
filled
barely
there.
anyone there.
There's no one in any of those rings, and even less once they got the news.
But
It was ridiculous
there
to
was
see
one
that.
figure that I saw, and I know the name's already been dropped a couple times, but Sly Moore, I think she was her name was dropped as one of the dinner guests for the previous episode, and I think she's the bald-headed woman who aids Palpatine, who we see in like the prequel trilogy, and she's like super creepy looking. One of the interesting things about her character is she is Force adept, and she can manipulate the minds of others. And so I think that she's either going to manipulate Mon Mothma's husband, or even worse, her daughter. Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I think something's going to happen there, and I think it's going to be. So that's my big, like, for her character prediction. And I'm also going to throw out a prediction along the lines of sort of what you were talking about, where you were like, I think by the end of this, we're not going to like Luthen. I think he's going to die. I think he absolutely is going to die. And I think he's going to die for a cause that's going to be a big blow to Cassian going into season 2. I could see them killing him off before the end of this season, because I just think that, like, if Luthen survived, he would have been a part of what was going on with Rogue One. Like, there'd be no way his character wouldn't be there. And I don't want them to like be like, oh, he was on a different planet or he was in the background. Like, no. He was either there or he wasn't. I think he's absolutely dead by the time Rogue One happens. That's my big prediction for him.
I buy that. I buy the fact that a lot of people might die by the time of Rogue One, because a lot of these characters are new, and Rogue One we focused on a select group. Yeah. So
and we already
anyone
lost,
can die in my book.
We already lost what, 4 of them this episode already?
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, like people might just be brought on to die right away, and maybe it's all these deaths that build up on Cassian's conscience.
Maybe. All right. Well, it's about time we get to our overall impressions of the 3 episodes. And if you want, you can give a score for each one. If you want to give a score for all of them, whatever you want to do, it's completely up to you. But we're going to be rating this on a scale of 1 to 5 betrayals.
Okay, I'm going to just lump them together, because that's the way I view these stories. I feel like if I were trying to grade them on their own, the fact that they're standing on their own would kind of impact the score, because I really feel like these 3 episodes work so perfectly together. You mentioned earlier that they could be watched at one time as a movie, and I feel like that's almost the best way to watch it, because you get the character growth through 3 episodes, so you understand where some of these characters are coming from and what the heist means for all of them and all that stuff, and again, all those little peeks into the the ISB and how their rank system works and how it's hard to move up there, and there's infighting and all that stuff. I feel like the writing in these last few episodes are just, again, stellar Star Wars, in that they're telling new stories with such high stakes that we already know, but are seeing in this a new light for the first time in Star Wars, and I'm loving it. So yeah, for the 3 episodes, solid 4.5 out of 5 for me, because there was some moments that I took me out of it a bit, but the overall story and character growth and development we got there is just phenomenal.
So good. When we saw episode 4, I actually had the opportunity to see it like months ago in August, and because of the date change, they pushed it back, and I was just sitting there like, when am I going to get episode 5? Like, let's go. And I will say episode 4, I think, was my favorite episode of the series until episode 6. And again, this is probably one of my top favorite Star Wars moments, I think, ever. This is up there with me for like the finale of Rogue One, the Duel of the Fates, up there with Obi-Wan and Anakin, the Vader Anakin fight in the Obi-Wan finale. Like, this is so high on my list as to like moments that I will remember when I think of Star Wars. It's just incredible the way they were able to do that. And it was just, and I hope Nemec forgives me for lack of a better term, but this was breathtaking. Like, this was absolutely incredibly breathtaking and just so visually beautiful. And I know he was crushed, and there's the joke. I was on the edge. I got it. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. And the way they've just, in 6 episodes, they've managed not only to recapture some of those feelings of sort of like dealing in the gray from Rogue One, but they've exceeded it already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unbelievable the way they depict, as you were saying, like some of the sects of these rebels. I still can't get a lot of the imagery out of my head, and I'm just so excited to see where they take us next. As you said, I love the fact that we're dealing very much with a different viewpoint for the things of Star Wars that we think we already all know. And I think it's something that like you would expect from a book, right? Like I know you've talked about the Thrawn novels before, and I'm sure that deals with a lot of this stuff. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, like, you know, who knew that after episodes 1, 2, and 3 that we would be really interested in terms of what was going on at the Senate, right? Like who knew that would be something? But it's just one of those things where we've all grown up as Star Wars fans, and this is very much for grown-up Star Wars fans, and it's something that has been needed for so long of just the fans just really wanting that and wanting that more mature Star Wars, because the kids will still get their version of Star Wars, and I think that's really important that they're doing that. But yeah, I will say, you know, episode 4 was my favorite. Episode 5 dipped a little bit for me, but episode 6, I just 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 betrayals. It was absolutely incredible, and I hope the second half of this season can keep it up or even exceeds this. But even if they don't, honestly, I will gladly rewatch episode 6 as, you know, of this series as part of rewatches of Star Wars. Like just this episode alone, alongside Rogue One. Like, dude, it's so good, so good. Anyways, I could literally go on for like another 20 minutes on just how much I love it. All right. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Watch Club for Andor. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into your show, if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, I'm just going to shout, climb over to Darcy to let you know how you can reach us.
Okay, well, they can always reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. But if that's too much like getting crushed between two pallets of your stolen heist, then you can reach us over on Instagram at wearegeekcentric or on Twitter at geekcentricyt.
Yeah, we promise you it won't cost that much for you to do, both in credits and in lives. It won't cost that much to reach out to us. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, like our recent spoiler-filled discussion for Werewolf by Night. We also have a spoiler-free discussion for Werewolf by Night, a review that you can check out if you haven't watched it yet. And we also have spoiler-free reviews for Andor, which by this point, like, whatever, I guess you're not going to listen to that. But we also have spoiler-free reviews for Amsterdam and Hocus Pocus 2. And we have a ton of interviews, like interviews with some of the cast of this very show. We spoke to Adria Arjona, who plays Bix, Denise Gove, who plays Dedra Miro, Kyle Solar, who plays Cyril, and the illustrious Mon Mothma herself, Genevieve O'Reilly. So go check out those interviews, both here on podcast services and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And if you enjoyed this Watch Club, we recently wrapped up our She-Hulk Attorney at Law Watch Club. The entire season of that show is out on Disney+, and our entire season of Watch Clubs is out wherever you like to listen to podcasts. So go check that out if you haven't already. We also have our weekly This Week in Geek episodes out every single Wednesday, where we break down our thoughts on the latest news and trailers surrounding all the things we love, with our most recent episode where Kevin, Darcy, and I share our thoughts on the recent casting of Harrison Ford, Han Solo, as Thaddeus Ross in the MCU. And lastly, Justin and Kevin recently got to witness the hierarchy of the city of Toronto change when they stood a stone's throw away from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the gold carpet premiere for DC's Black Adam. And they have some lightning reactions, and they've also got their spoiler-free review alongside their impressions of the event out now. So go give those episodes a listen, a like, a subscribe, 5-star review if you don't mind. And if you're a Clerks fan, by the way, I almost forgot to put this in here, Darcy and Kevin got to meet the Kevin. You got to actually meet the Kevin Smith. Darcy, obviously without any spoilers there, what was that like?
He's such a chill guy, and I think he was just as high as I was when I met him. So that's always
awesome.
good to see.
That's fantastic. So if you want to hear their thoughts on meeting Kevin Smith and their review of Clerks 3, definitely go check out that episode as well. Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say,
rebellions are built on hope. Nailed
it.